Hi, boys and girls. Back again for part 2 of Mysteries According to Humphrey. And Harrison is still with me. He's sleeping again. So you're probably wondering what kind of mystery Mrs. Brisbane has planned. And I am too. So we're going to go ahead and read part 2. I'll have Humphrey peeking out there a little bit. Soon the classroom was empty except for Og, the frog, and me. Classroom pets like us don't get to go outside for recess. Once we were alone, I squeaked to my neighbor, who lives in a tank next to my cage. Og, why do you think that ad asked for someone with red hair? He splashed around a little in the water side of his tank, and then he leaped up and said, boing, boing. He sounds like a broken guitar string, but he can't help it. It's just the sound he makes. I guess Og doesn't know much about red hair. He doesn't have any hair or fur at all, and he's very, very, very green. I don't have any ideas either, I said, but I'm sure going to think about it. When my friends came back, they were anxious to hear about the other mystery. You know, class, when we read, we're all detectives, the teacher said. Oh, we can make a text-to-self connection there. We all looked puzzled. Sometimes we come across a word we don't know, right? She asked. Everyone nodded, including me. So to figure out what the word means, we look for a clue. Mrs. Brisbane continued, just like Sherlock Holmes did. Try this sentence. Then Mrs. Brisbane wrote something very mysterious on the board. You're going to love it. She wrote, the twins looked so much alike, I was pie-whacked when I tried to tell them apart. Pie-whacked? What? That word had never been on our vocabulary list. Lots of my friends giggled when they saw the word. Who knows what pie-whacked means? Mrs. Brisbane asked. Thomas raised his hand. Well, I think it means hit someone in the face with a pie. Everyone laughed, including me, but that didn't make much sense in the sentence about the twins. Okay, let's try again, Mrs. Brisbane said. She wrote another sentence on the board. The rules of soccer can be very pie-whacking if you've never seen a game before. This time, more students giggled. Pie-whacked? Pie-whacking? What was she trying to say? Were there pies flying at the soccer game? Look at how the word is used in the sentence to get some clues, she told us. Mrs. Brisbane wrote one more sentence on the board. When the teacher put the wrong answers on the board, there was a lot of pie-waction in the classroom. Pie-waction? What? Was there a pie fight in the classroom? Or had my teacher lost her mind? Oh my gosh, I'm so confused, I blurted out, even though all that my human friends heard was squeak. Confusion! Slow down, Simon shouted. I'm sorry to say he forgot to raise his hand before speaking. Confused, Too Helpful Holly said. She raised her hand, but she didn't wait for the teacher to call on her before speaking. Let me see if that works in the sentence, Mrs. Brisbane said with a smile. The twins looked so much alike, I was confused when I tried to tell them apart. That worked for me. How about the rules of the soccer can be very confusing if you've never seen the game before, she continued. And finally, when the teacher put the wrong answers on the board, there was a lot of confusion in the classroom. Now I was positive, get it, positive, that pie-whacked meant confuse. For your homework tonight, here are 5 more mystery words to figure out, she said as she handed Rolling Rosie the homework sheets to pass out. Unfortunately, Rosie didn't give me one, so I couldn't see what the mystery words were. I tried making up my own mystery words like flagpole, flat pole, and scarrot, but they just made me hungry. At the end of the day, just before the bell rang, the door to room 26 swung open, and in walked Mrs. Wright. She's the physical education teacher. She was clutching a pink jacket, and as usual, she wore a shiny silver whistle on a cord around her neck. Mrs. Wright likes to blow that whistle, and when she does, oh boy, it makes my ears wiggle and the fur on my neck stand up. It's loud, loud, loud. Way too loud for the small, sensitive ears of a hamster. Mrs. Wright always likes rules. Okay, she loves rules. I can understand why someone who teaches children to play games would love rules, because rules are very important to games. But to squeak the truth, I think she loves rules just a tiny bit too much, and I think Mrs. Brisbane agrees with me. Yes, Mrs. Wright, our teacher asked. Mrs. Wright raised the pink jacket up high. I believe this belongs to one of your students, she said. Normally, I would put it in Lost and Found in my office. But her name is inside, and I thought she might need it. It's quite chilly out there. Phoebe Pratt? Oh, poor forgetful Phoebe looked embarrassed as she walked over to get the jacket. I'm sorry, Mrs. Wright, she said. Students must be responsible for their belongings, Mrs. Wright said. You'd be amazed what treasures I have in the Lost and Found. Well, thank you, Mrs. Wright, said Mrs. Brisbane. Mrs. Wright paused at the door and fingered her whistle. I steeled myself for a loud blast, but luckily she walked out the door silently. All right, and we'll stop there, boys and girls. Have a great day.